if Israel escalates it into something further, God, that would just be so dumb. God, it would be so stupid. What makes you think they might? I don't know. Netanyahu and a lot of the right-wing government, I think the Minister of Defense and everybody was saying, yeah, let's do it. I'm hoping it's just like a show for the people. That's what I'm hoping it is. It's just a show for the people. It should be. No more excuses. Okay. I have, I might be abandoning the Israeli cause. I don't know if this is normal or ordinary or what, but for the first time in my life, I think, on my flight back from New York, I sat next to and was in line with, I think it was like an Orthodox Jewish family or some shit. I have never in my life felt the blood pulsing through my brains of a potential Mujahideen, Fedayeen, Islamic jihadist fighter than with these screaming kids, these rude as parents. I was like in line and this guy behind me kept with his stupid fucking hat. He kept bumping me with his suitcase. I was like, it must be a mistake. It must be a mistake. This guy doesn't know I'm Israel's biggest defender. Why the fuck is this guy bumping into me over and over again? And then I find out when we get on the plane why. And it's because it's a full flight, so you have to stash your suitcase, and he was trying to hide it from the fucking bridge guy. So we get on and the lady's like, sir, that suitcase needs to, where's the tag? And he's like, oh, I don't know, it's got important stuff in it, I can't. She's like, sir. So they fight for like 2 minutes. I don't know how he doesn't just get kicked off the plane. Maybe because the whole family's there and she feels bad. Then we are, the kid behind me kept kicking my chair. Like, oh my God. And I think I looked back and the mom looked at me. And it's like when Aslan, my old, like, they're not my Eris's cat, would like, you ever have a cat that just like knocks things off shelves and he'll stare at you while he does it? This mom's just looking at me and her kid kicks my chair again. And I'm like, I must be having a nightmare or some shit. And I try to just go back to side, just lean forward instead of leaning back. Coach or first class? I always just fly. I feel like first class is a waste of money, okay? I should fly first. I can afford it. I don't know. It feels weird. I'm just like, it's all that money for me to sleep the whole time. Are you not the type to tell them straight that their kid keeps hitting your chair? No, I'm a non-confrontational pussy, okay? I usually can just chill, grin and bear it. Unless somebody really fucks up. But most people don't really fuck up. They're just fucking annoying. Fox didn't pay for your flight. No, maybe I should have asked them to. Wait, do they offer? I'm not even sure. I don't usually, but even if somebody offers to pay, I'm not having them spring for first class. I don't actually know what the point was of me going there. I don't know. Could you guys could tell that he was shooting remote, right? Like he was at I think he's in Texas. Am I doxing somebody? I think he's down in Texas. So I don't know what the point is of me going to New York to do a in-studio shoot when he's doing remote. I don't know what the point of that. I don't know why they do that. But I had 2 other shows I did there anyway, so that's fine. I did Ryan Long's show, which was okay, and then I was on Gnome. I should learn this guy's name. He does the Above the Table, I think. I need to learn. No. Over the Table? He's the owner of the Comedy Cellar. Oh my God. Comedy Cellar podcast. Live from the table. Fuck me. One of these table things. Oh, these 2 guys are here. This guy seems super friendly. Oh, fuck. He said he was okay with Trump winning over Biden in the last election. There's a lot we could have argued about, but it's a short show. I think they only shoot for about an hour. I think we might have gone an hour and a half, but... In my opinion, business class is perfect. It's not that expensive and no families. I think I don't know if there's domestic business class. I don't know if that exists in the US. I think business is usually international flights. Sometimes they'll be domestic. I think if you're flying like a 747, if you're flying a really big plane. I think if you do like LA to New York, or if you're doing like Vancouver to New York or Miami, there might be. But generally, I don't think they're separate. Usually, it's just. I also like how they don't have like first class. They call them like different things. Like I think JetBlue calls it like the blue. What do they call? What is JetBlue's first class called? I don't know. Everybody has to have a different name for everything. Mint. Did Dr. Abby give you the beard steroids? No, I did that like a week or two ago in some place here. We'll see if that does anything. What was the worst podcast you've done so far? I don't know. What was the other thing you did other than the Comedy Cellar and Fox News? Ryan Long and his friend, who I need to remember the name of as well. Oh, Danny Polishchik. That's why I don't remember his name. The fuck? You didn't meet up with Ak? I think Ak is actually down here right now. He's at hold on. I always get nervous saying where people are because I don't know how much a secret or not. I don't want to like dox somebody and then some drive-by shooting happens and then... What's the longest flight you've been on? I don't know. Really long. Sometimes you're a little too robotic on the Fox News appearance. I think you should be more animated and personal. I feel like I'm normally too animated. I'm trying to chill a little bit, I think. What would it take for you to get confrontational with a stranger? I don't know. I'm pretty non-confrontational. I don't really give a fuck. I guess if I was with somebody and they were like with like my kid or something, I'd probably be confrontational. But do you have anything big planned? Just this Israel trip that's looming in the distance. That there's no shot. There's no shot that Netanyahu actually does anything, right? It's such a massive W how everything turned out. Everybody got to walk away feeling fine with that, but everybody that knows that like Israel absolutely got the upper hand on that. They got to kill their little Quds Force military dude in Syria. Not only did they basically completely defend from Iran's attack, they had help from even Jordan to do so. What a show of allianceship. What a strong showing for your little Gulf Israel axis, right? Versus your Iranian, and then whatever the fuck is to the west of Iraq, whatever state is even in existence there, and then half of Lebanon has like it was such a good and Saudi Arabia, it's such a good showing for Israel. Like, why not leave it there? It's so good and it's so done. It's such a perfect everything. If Israel escalates it into something further, God, that would just be so dumb. God, it would be so stupid. What makes you think they might? I don't know. Netanyahu and a lot of the right-wing government, I think the Minister of Defense and everybody was saying, yeah, let's do it. I'm hoping it's just like a show for the people. That's what I'm hoping it is. It's just a show for the people. It should be. Also, from reports I've read, people actually believe that Iran intended for the attack to succeed, not fail, and cause significant damage. Nah, no shot. Iran was screaming down the hall that attack was coming for weeks. I don't think so. This is a little conspiracy. It wouldn't surprise me if Iran was like passing information to like Washington about what was going on. As a heads up. I don't believe that. But I could be totally wrong. There's something to be said about a norm of the capital being lit up every time a Middle Eastern adversary is upset, no? Well, there's something to be said for bombing a consulate to kill people as well, which Israel did, right? They haven't claimed it, but everybody knows it was them. So, I mean, like, if you're going to around, they have to respond, right? Iran has to respond, and Israel needs to realize that. They've made these mistakes in the past. Remember with, I think it was part of what led up to it was part of what led Jordan into the 6-Day War, was Israel constantly undermining Jordan, trying to be moderate towards them. And Israel would come over the top with these reprisals. And at some point, it's like, bro, the king is going to be overthrown if he doesn't respond to this. You're putting him in an unwinnable position. You have to give your political opponents some room to maneuver. You can't box them in and then get upset if they start acting crazy. And it's just, a war right now in that region just doesn't benefit anybody. It's just not good for anybody. Iran is not in any reasonable position to actually fight, I don't think. It doesn't seem like it, unless there's just a bunch of reports I've missed. Syria is still like a fucking collapsing state. I don't know, I still don't know what the Iraq does in any of that. I don't know where their allegiances lie or what that country thinks about anything right now. I don't think Egypt and Jordan are going to war with Israel. Hamas has been utterly obliviated. The Houthis are a ragtag group of pirates that probably never wanted to govern in the first place, but have been for half a decade or whatever. Like, it's just Iran's faction looks so much worse here. If it escalated all out war, Iran's faction is so much worse. But also, if it escalated full-on war, the United States doesn't want to get involved in this shit. We're looking at an election in 6 months. Okay, it's great for good for Netanyahu that they're still like 2 years from their general election. But in the US, we're staring down the barrel of an important election. We don't want Israel to be fucking around right now and having this shit drug out into the news more. Not good. Do you think Israel's attack on Iran was militarily justified? Well, they're on the Iranian consulate in Syria. I think so. I don't know what the norms are around like consulates or embassies in countries that don't recognize you. I don't know what those international norms are. So my opinion would change if I find out different things about them. But Iraqi Shia are kind of divided between Arab nationalism, which is kind of anti-Persian, and Shia sectarianism, which enjoys support from Iran. They clashed a few years back. Okay. Any strikes would be against Hezbollah, most likely. Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, Israel's prior excursions into Lebanon have been catastrophic for Israel. So, yeah, I don't know. What Israel needs to do, I think I said as much on Noam's show. Hey, Destiny, I was wondering what you think about the narrative that the left is incentivizing illegal immigration so they can vote for Biden and the whole thing with asking for voter ID. Don't know if you're talking this. No, that's stupid. You can never bring in enough and get them in the right areas. And no, I don't. I think that's bullshit. Fuck. I should have finished my sentence, my thought. What did I say? I told Noam as much. Lebanon would just... Israel has to solve the Palestinian problem. Israel has to solve this. There, no more excuses. Even if you've got to railroad the Palestinian people into some deal, you have to get it done. It's so stupid at this point. Like, the Gaza Strip is Hamas's, or not Hamas, it's like Iran's like biggest entry point into like stupid shit going on right now. The Israel and the Palestinians, the Jews, the Israelites, I don't know what the fuck the Israelis, not Israelites. The Israelis and the Palestinians have to reach some kind of solution to figure out the final status on borders and refugees and all that. That has to happen. Zatsui, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. It represents such a point of instability for that entire region that like everybody can just take advantage of and fuck with. The West is willing to shoot down Iranian missiles and drones. Why not shoot down Russian ones over Ukraine? Because Russia is a big boy with nuclear weapons, and Iran is not a very big boy, not nuclear weapons yet. Why is it so important now, though, and not like 20 years ago? Well, 20 years ago was important too, but like as it drags on longer and longer and longer, it becomes more and more important. It becomes harder and harder and harder. Harder and harder to what? Harder and harder to figure out what the final arrangement is going to be. Because every year, the settlements continue to expand, the Palestinian territory gets smaller, the international support for the Palestinians gets more meaningless but louder, but yeah. You say Iran has to respond, but then their response is just shooting missiles into civilian areas, and what happens, I guess, I might be reading too much of this, or I could be dramatically overestimating my confidence on this, which is possible, by the way. I tweeted out, I think a week ago, that there was no shot that this goes anywhere from here, and I guess if Israel does go somewhere from here, then I was completely wrong on that. But I feel like if Iran wanted to get more civilian casualties, I think they could have. I'm pretty sure that what I read was the stock of missiles that they were shooting, where it was like all of their older stuff, essentially. They were saber rattling for weeks about this. It seemed to be the case. Now, maybe everybody's just always on alert, but it seemed to be the case that multiple countries were ready to step up and help Israel defend against this barrage of missiles. And at the end of the day, it was one 7-year-old girl that was injured. Did she even die? From 110, I think, ballistic missiles. People were saying Saudi Arabia. Hold on. How many other countries stepped? I know for sure it was Jordan. I know it was I know Israel did. And I think I read the U.S. did. People in chat were saying Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Is that true too? Can I just get a write-up of... But is it even possible to reach an agreement with Palestine at this point? My family is Lebanese, moderate even, and I can't imagine for a second any of them being good with peace with Israel right now. I don't care. It has to happen. It's not an option anymore. It has to happen. There has to be something. This was conducted in coordination with the Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces. Interesting. Is an Iraqi state-sponsored umbrella organization composed of approximately 67 different armed factions with around 230,000 fighters. Several countries in the Middle East closed their airspace a few hours prior to Iran launching a standoff attack against Israel around midnight on the 13th of April, 2024. Does this mean that they got intelligence saying that there was an attack coming, or do you think Iran puts out notice to countries that an attack is coming? Iran's attack involved around 170 drones, over 30 cruise missiles, more than 120 ballistic missiles. Israel used Arrow 3 and David Sling systems to shoot down the incoming weapons. If you guys run out of biblical names, you just stop making new technology. David Sling. The American, British, French. Oh, there we go. So the Americans, the Brits, the French, and the Jordanian Air Forces and Navy helped shoot down Iranian drones. France, which intervened at the request of Jordan, deployed its Navy to provide radar coverage. Jordan stated that it intercepted objects flying around into its airspace to ensure its citizens' safety. Okay, so nothing about... People were saying Egypt and Saudi Arabia. To prepare for the attack, Israel, alongside Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Kuwait, closed their airspace on 13th April. Iran only closed its airspace to VFR flights. Oh, hold on. Thoughts on the IDF arming some anti-Hamas Gazans to protect aid convoys? They're mulling over that idea. Anti-Hamas Gazans. Wasn't that Ryan Macbeth's idea? You've got to stop treating these autocratic regimes like they represent the interests of their respective countries. You've done it with Russia, China, and now Iran. You've got to do better. I don't think you can make a blanket statement on that, my dude. I think that some autocracies can represent their people decently well, and some are just very, very, very far off. I think it depends on the regime. I've heard this said over and over again, but I'm very scared about just repeating stuff I've heard, because when I do research, but I've heard it said over and over again that the Iranian Ayatollah doesn't represent the Iranian people. That Iranian people. I know every Persian I've met in the United States hates Iran, but that could just be my bubble. And then I've heard it said over and over again that the people in Iran don't support the Ayatollah. Now, why they haven't been overthrown, or there's been like a military coup or some other shit, I don't know. But I think that, like, when I look historically at like Egypt, like they would coup their leaders, and I feel like their dictators represented their people decently well. When I look at like the monarchs, and would you consider like a monarch an autocratic regime? Autocrat means like one leader, right? Autocratic. What's the difference between like an autocracy, autocratic versus dictator? Hold on. Autocracy is a system of government which absolute power is held by the ruler, known as an autocrat, and includes most forms of monarchy and dictatorship. Okay, yeah. So like all the Gulf states are autocratic, right? But they like represent they have to respond. They have to respond to public pressure. Let me put it that way. Jordan and Egypt's populations hate Israel. We're lucky they aren't democracies. Maybe, yeah. Maybe they just don't like Jews. I don't know. I think it might be a little more complicated. I'm not sure. I don't know. All that is weird. If Israel bombs citizen regions in Iran, will you pivot your stand-ins on pro-Israeli side? I don't understand what you guys know. There's not like one thing that would change my entire perspective on a thing. That it never works that way. If Israel were to bomb Iranian citizens, that would be bad. I would be opposed to that. It would be stupid and it would be bad. It would be both of those things. More stupid than bad. It would be unbelievably stupid. But one thing wouldn't change my entire perspective on it. America can do bad or stupid things. Like, oh, will you hate America now? No, that's not how that works. No. But it would be really stupid, and I would oppose the move. If you do enough of those things, it can flip your opinion. But there's not just one thing that any country can do that should flip your entire opinion on an entire country. That's wild. Never mind, your brain is owned. Okay, Cloudan from YouTube chat. Thank you. At Destiny, the population's desire is largely irrelevant in autocratic regimes because they don't have political power. I think you are wrong. You have political power, in autocratic regimes, it's just at the end of a sword. I think that for autocratic regimes, you can be a bit more unpopular because people aren't voting for you. You're not going to get, if 40% of the population, supports you and 60% wants you gone, you're probably okay. But if you become wildly unpopular, you're going to get couped or you're going to get assassinated and somebody else is going to step in. Even in monarchies and even in autocracies, the leadership is very sensitive to the people because at the end of the day, as much as people say like, oh, currency is fake, it's just paper. Leadership is fake. It's a title, which means nothing. The universe doesn't recognize your role as king any more than your people will if they feel like you're not representing, at the very least, the interests of the country or whatever it is you ostensibly claim to represent. You fucking idiot. What if all of Israel DDoSed you every day right before stream? Then we're all getting alien Luagos or the Hassan guns, and we're going over there. Destiny, they have zero political power, and you saying that is a clear indicator that you need to read up on autocracy and their resource to personalism and coercion. Or their request, I'm good. You can go read. Go read and do some history, okay? Or go read a Wikipedia, okay? Motormouth. No, you see this or at the very least in the Middle East, all of the leadership responds to the pressure from the people and how they view and how they're viewed from the people. Like you see them making decisions on that. You see them getting into wars because they're worried about losing legitimacy to other states or losing legitimacy in the eyes of their people. You see coups happening. In Egypt, you saw it. In Jordan, it almost happened, right? With the PLO trying to overthrow the monarchy. In Syria, it's that country's whole history is a fucking nightmare. And in Lebanon, fucking Christ. And in Yemen. Yo, why am I responding to you? Shut off. It's not a cartoon. In a cartoon, the leader has leadership. And in a cartoon, he just uses the military to kill all the people. If you go against me, I'm going to kill you. And in a cartoon, that's how autocracies and dictatorships work. In the real world, they don't work that way. In the real world, if you become dramatically unpopular, there's a lot of people that are going to be around you looking at you like, well, who's this motherfucker? All right? Because if people are going to come marching in here and they're going to kill you, it's going to look more like a Game of Thrones situations where you've got the Lannisters opening their arms and saying, okay, hey, you're coming to the city. F these guys. That's probably a more realistic outcome than a dictator, right? Where you switch sides. You're like, okay, well, I'll be part of the new group of people because this guy sucks. And then you let the other people in and they kill the king. Yeah. Every escalation in a conflict puts Jordanian regime at risk of popular coup, especially when the Hashemite army just showed that it will help defend Israel. Do you think that's a fair assessment of political power? By that argument, all governments necessarily react to pressure from the people, but is that really how we typically describe political power? Well, if you're going to describe political power as just voting, well then, by definition, then we don't have to argue. You can just say, oh no, Destiny, when I said political power, I meant voting. And I go, oh, okay, well then obviously, yeah, you have no political power in a dictatorship because you literally can't vote. So I mean, like, yeah. Do any brutal dictatorships exist in the modern world in your eyes? Brutal dictatorships. I'm sure, I don't know any African history. I'm sure that throughout Africa or even modern shit, I'm sure there were probably that shit going on right now. North Korea seems pretty fucking bad. I don't really know much of the details about it. I'm not sure right now if there's just like an actual like super standard horrible brutal dictator right now outside of Africa, which I know nothing about country by country. So Putin, I guess it depends on what we consider a brutal dictatorship. I'm thinking when I think of brutal dictatorship, I think like entire like population living substandard, like regular killings, like no political dissent allowed whatsoever. Like Russia is bad. But would I consider Russia like the brutal dictatorship of, like what you would consider in the, I don't know. Syria, maybe? The reason why I'm not bringing up Syria and Yemen is because I don't even know the stability of those countries right now. Didn't Assad gas his people? Well, kind of. Assad gassed rebel fighters in his country, like in a civil war. It's kind of his people, and chemical weapons are bad. But, it's not like he was just gassing his people, like, I don't believe, just as like a brutal dictator. I feel like the last like brutal dictator that I can think of was probably Saddam Hussein. The Taliban might qualify as brutal dictators. I don't know much about that country right now, but Saudi Arabia, I don't think so. Oh, Gaddafi from Libya, maybe. I try not to say, it's hard to ascribe like brutal dictatorship to like a highly unstable country, because that just feels like a situation. I don't know if I would be like, oh, this is because of a brutal dictatorship. Like, well, it just seems like it's fucked. Like Syria right now is like just fucked. But why wouldn't Saudi count? Isn't the standard of living and everything in Saudi Arabia like generally pretty good? Isn't it like a pretty decent to live place? I mean, like obviously their standards and rights on like women and gay people and all that are a lot different. But do you think Lincoln would have gassed the Confederacy if he had the technology? Jesus, I don't know. Probably, right? Because I don't think we had any standards on weapons that we could or couldn't use back then, right? Was it which convention banned chemical weapons? Was it the Geneva Convention? Which convention banned chemical weapons? Or was it an actual, it might have been like a whole different convention. Okay. It was just like a public sentiment thing. It's just interesting to me that like what would you prefer as a soldier? You get like a whiff of mustard gas and you get like blisters on your eyes and your lungs and it sucks? Or would you just rather be like blown up by a missile? I'm not sure. It's not about how good a dictator is. It's about dictatorships having no worthwhile institutions limiting their authority. Saudi Arabia might be a decent place to live, but they have no rule of law other than the whims of MBS. Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't the institution, we're speaking quite liberally using these terms, wouldn't the institution in dictatorships generally be the military? Or like a popular military, like a popular group rising up is usually the check on them, and then you get cooed by your military or by a rising military. I feel like we're just like doing semantics games at this point. I don't know if we disagree or not. Do you think such a revolution... Oh, wait, there was a $50 donation. One criticism of Israel I heard from Bassem Youssef is that if you want to see how Israel would treat Gaza if Hamas was eliminated, all you need to do is look at the West Bank and how people are still dying over there. What are your thoughts? If you're going to if you think that the West Bank is being f***ed up as bad as the Gaza Strip, you are delusional. I don't even know what to say to that. That's a wild comparison. Also, it also implies that Hamas is the only militant or bad thing of all the Palestinian people. It's just Hamas, and then everybody else is like squeaky clean. That's not really true either. Do you think such a revolution could happen in China? Is there a point where the surveillance military capabilities of a government can effectively quell dissent before it ever rises to the point of an organized resistance? I don't think anybody can control a population that effectively. I think people wish they could exercise that level of strict control over a population, but I seriously doubt anybody can do it that well. Wait, hold on. I feel like wasn't there, I thought there was a part on the site that told you who killed, oh, wait. Is it this? That this would break down, like, who did the actual attack. Was it a civilian or was it a military person? Okay. I need to see exactly how, I'm like, that's unreasonable. I can't do that. I was going to say we could look into every single thing. But something that is challenging is when you look at the Israeli injuries in the West Bank. So these are injuries against... we've got Israeli forces and Israeli civilians, right? Over the past 15 years, 3,619 injuries were caused by Palestinian armed groups. But if we look at civilians, 2,737 were caused by civilians. So there's a pretty similar amount, similar-ish. What is this, like 40-60? How would you break this down? A decent amount of violence is caused just by civilians. I don't think the breakdown is the same. I'm also just looking at injuries here, not looking at fatalities. We can check on the other one too. These are, let's look at Palestinian injuries. So 158,000 Palestinian injuries of Israeli forces, 155,000 were caused by Israeli forces, and then by settlers it was 2,648, disputed as 61. So on the Israeli side, of all the injuries caused, the vast, this is over 99%, right? 99% or like 98%. The vast amount of injuries are caused by the actual like IDF, which is as bad as it is how it should be, right? Your military and policing should be doing it. For the other side, for almost half of it to be coming from civilians is kind of worrying. Let's look at fatalities. I'm just saying it blurs the line on like what the fuck is happening a lot in terms of like, well, who's a civilian, who's a fighter? Yeah. Perpetrator. Let's see. So we're looking at deaths for fatalities. Yeah, you can see 6,656 of the Palestinian deaths in the... Well, let's just do West Bank. That includes the Gaza Strip too. Damn, that Bassem quote was so... Or Bassam? What a stupid fucking quote. In 15 years, there's been 1,307 deaths in the West Bank of Palestinians. This is the same as what's happening in Gaza right now? Okay, dude. So there's been 1,307 caused by Israeli forces. All right? There's been 50 caused by Israeli civilian settlers. The disputed number is 52. Or no, I'm sorry. The disputed number is just 2. The unknown is 16. So like the vast majority of deaths in the West Bank have been done by the Israeli forces. If we look at the Palestinian side, there have been 319 Israeli fatalities. I'm sorry, let's look at just the West Bank. It's 144 deaths. And then if we look at the cause here, the armed groups accounted for 4 of them, and the civilians accounted for 137 of them. 3 are disputed. I don't think he's saying the same. He's saying even if Gaza stops fighting, it will still be a fuck situation like in the West Bank. Yeah, but the West Bank is infinitely better than the Gaza Strip. It's an infinitely better. There are infinitely less restrictions on the West Bank. It's not the best. It's not like an autonomous country or anything yet, but it's still way better than the Gaza Strip. One of the things that is annoying is that I'm feeling this stronger and stronger until I get pushback on this. I haven't seen any yet. Historically, I think Jews have been forced to contend with political realities and the reality of their situation, however dire or however good. They've been forced to contend with the reality of their situation, which forces them at times to make hard decisions. I don't think the Palestinians have ever been confronted with difficult decisions or their backs against the wall ever. I don't think the Palestinians have, if you really think about it, since 1948, arguably, the Palestinians have never suffered, in the eyes of the international community, a single political defeat ever, because they want to go back to the borders that they had in 1948. So that's 80 years worth of terrorism, conflicts, attacks, refused peace, whatever. 80 years worth of it. And they think they can still go back to the first thing. Even after October 7th, they think they can still go back to the first thing. So as long as, if you were a Palestinian, why the fuck would you ever settle for peace? Why would you ever do that? It doesn't make any sense. You're always going to be able to have people on your side screaming, international law, international law. Like, yeah, I don't know. You missed a $50 question from Rush Golden. I just answered it. What are you talking about? I'm going to catch up on the New York case. Going to be a major discourse for the next few months. Good to fight the Trump persecution narrative. I don't know. I don't care much about the New York case. It's already boring to me. I guess it'll set a good precedent for or not precedent, but it gives us some insight into how difficult the jury selection process and everything is going to be for the other cases. It's interesting. I don't know. I guess I didn't care about Israel-Palestine growing up that much. You'd hear about it, but you didn't really know anything about it. Or at least I didn't. Somebody linked me this or emailed me this. It is interesting that it feels like the media used to be a bit more fair. Or I don't know, maybe not. Maybe this was just one article out of many. Caution needed with Gaza casualty figures. War zones are not easy places to collect statistics. This article is from 2014, so this would have been around, maybe after Protective Edge. I don't remember if that was before or after this, but I'm guessing 2014. In the Gaza conflict, most news organizations have been quoting from the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, which leads a group of humanitarian organizations known as the Protection Cluster. And its recent report said that as of the 10th of August, 1,948 Palestinians had been killed and 66 Israelis and 1 Thai national since Israel launched Operation Protective Edge on the 8th of July. Of those Palestinians, the status of 320 could not be identified. At least 1,402 were civilians, including 456 children and 237 women, the UN body reported. So there were 226 members of armed groups killed and another 7 709 men who were civilians. Among civilians, 3 times as many men were killed as women, while 3 times as many civilian men were killed as fighters. The UN report carries a caveat with its figures. Data on fatalities and destruction of property is consolidated by the protection and shelter clusters based on preliminary information and is subject to change based on further verifications. There has been some research suggesting that men in general are more likely to die in conflict than women, although no typical ratio is given. Nonetheless, the proportion of civilian men over 18 killed seems high, and it is not immediately obvious why. Matthias Benck from OHCHR told BBC News that the organization would not want to speculate about why there have been so many adult male casualties, adding that because they were having to deal with a lot of casualties in a short time, they had focused primarily on recording the casualties. As such, we have not at this stage conducted a detailed analysis of trends of civilian casualties, for example, in relation to the reasons why different groups are affected and the types of incidents, but hope to carry this out at some point in the coming future, he said. However, even in the compiling of these preliminary figures, we cross-verify between different sources, not only media and several different human rights organizations, but also use other sources, including, for example, names of alleged fighters released by the IDF and notices by armed groups in Gaza claiming someone as a member. They basically just go through like the difficulty in calculating like the deaths and if they're actually accurate or not. But it was interesting to read this in 2014. I don't know if any article like this would be or has been or could be written today. I don't know. Or if it would be like a way to like what's going on. The BBC makes woke TV shows and has been said to have a left-leaning bias. They definitely do. Okay. Jesus Christ. Goes back further. In 1982, the Lebanon War people were complaining about media reports of casualty figures. Mentioned in here that PLO reports of casualties would be inflated. Real quick, if I get like a JStore account, do I have automatic access to everything posted on JStore? Wait. Not everything, but a lot? Your library might have access? Bro. Do you have the original Alien or the Creator 500? I got the Creator 500 edition, okay. I wanted the pretty engravings on the side and everything. It's pronounced JStore. If the civilian to combatant ratio was 1-to-1, would you call that a success? Circumstances being, yeah, of course. I think 3-to-1 or 2 anywhere from 3 to 5-to-1 is probably okay for this. Around there, I think. Why don't people ever bring up the UAE, who has been a country less years than Israel and never had Saudi or Oman call them occupiers, considering the ethnicity of UAE leaders being from Iran? I don't know. I don't know anything about the UAE. You can find articles from JStore for free on LibGen. Well, I mean, I don't mind paying for it. I don't want, what I don't want is I don't want to pay for this and then I find out that actually you only get access to 20% of the articles and actually you don't have access. Like, for instance, like would everything in like Nature also be published on JStore? Like, would you have access to every, like, does JStore have every major journal and then it all gets like thrown up here, or how does that work? I emailed Ground News, but I'm happy veteran of the product. No, I appreciated their sponsorship of the Bridges podcast. They got to bank within minutes. However, you should talk to them about providing an actual referral code in the future rather than a link for new users only. Okay. The UAE is bombing civilians in Yemen. I thought that stopped last year. I thought Saudi Arabia and everybody else kind of stopped that. JPass. That's what I fucking need, dude. I need the JPass. Yes, true. Fucking true. Damn, $20 a month. PDF downloads included 10? This is why it took Finkelstein 40 years to learn about Israel-Palestine. Pretty sure that if you log into JStore with Google, you can read up to 100 articles every 30 days online for free. Huh. I'll add that on my list of things to do. What's even the argument for paywalling research? I honestly have no idea. I would say maybe to like fund research, but if I had to guess, the total amount of funding dollars that comes from people paying to access research has got to be less than like 1%. That'd be my guess. I could be totally wrong on that. Or if a significant amount of funding comes from people paying for access, it's because schools pay in bulk or en masse or something. Like the school will pay $10,000 to have unlimited passes or something like that. That'd be my guess. How much money is raised by researchers paywalling? Or there's no way I'm going to get a good answer on this. Wait, Copilot, where are you at? Maybe I can ask I hid my AI person. Come back, Copilot. Hello, Copilot. How do I bring her back? Bring her home. Since you mentioned your new ban policy, any chance of being pardons to DGGers who've gotten banned? I'm trying to do a mass unban in the subreddit. I'll do one on DGG after, okay? Note that the Middle Eastern flags have changed a lot throughout the years. There used to be a time where Egypt and Syria had the same flag, for example. Oh, 100. Oh. Do you know why Egypt and Syria had the same flag? I think Egypt and Syria, I think, were the same country, called the, I don't know how they did this formally, but they were because Egypt used to be called the United Arab Republic. And I think it was like a coalition country thing with Egypt and Syria. And then I think it was Nasser I think it was Sadat that changed it back to the Republic of Egypt. Hold on. I decided I'm going to add in this timeline. I'm going to have leaders of the surrounding countries because it's good to be able to track their shit. That's the only reason I remember this. Through 1970. Yeah, and then it was Sadat that changed it. Nasser formed a country or a coalition. He called it the United Arab Republic. That was the formal name of Egypt and Syria? I don't 100% know how this worked. But then I think in 1970, Sadat changed it back to, or not changed it back to, he changed it to the Arab Republic of Egypt. What is Egypt's formal name right now? The Arab Republic of Egypt, yes. Okay. They're not adjacent countries? Well, sure. I don't know anything about the formation of these other than I know that's what it was called, but my guess is going to be, remember, I think the goal was, I think there was some kind of goal to bring back a caliphate. That was like the dream, was that there'd be another huge Arab country like the Ottoman Empire, but there were just too many conflicting interests. I know that a lot of people were irritated. A lot of the southern states were irritated, for instance, over the Baghdad Pact, because they viewed Iraq as not being loyal to the Arab Republic, and then a lot of people were competing for who would be the head of that Arab Republic, and no, they were secular. Oh, I guess actually that's fair. Pan-Arabism, I guess, doesn't necessarily imply that it has to be like a caliphate. I'm curious what that means in practice. Because so for Egypt, Nasser was a secular dictator. What does it mean when you're like a secular dictator of like a 90% religious country? I want to, in practice, I'm sure there are differences. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure. Why did Sadat do that? Because Sadat was based, okay? Unless you're Muin Rabbani, then I guess Sadat was horrible, but... Point taken about being passive aggressive, but help me understand then how you did not consider the fact that Netanyahu is facing immense pressure from the more extreme parts of his coalition to use this as an opportunity to strike Iran. The man is barely holding on to his premiership, so does he really have a choice not to strike? My impression, I don't know, I'm lying if I say I know how all the electoral politics in Israel break down right now, or what all the positions are in the Knesset, but my feeling would be, this is a feeling I have, I could be wrong, my feeling would be that if the only reason why that minority party has so much pull is because they needed that minority party to form the coalition government. But if Netanyahu appeals too much to the extremes, he's going to lose support among his own, like the more moderate people in his coalition. That'd be my guess. And at that point, having a smaller, more extreme party doesn't help you. I don't know if we could look at polling data, like what does the average Israeli citizen feel like about a strike into Iran? Also, one thing I will say that I tried doing a little bit, because I'm trying to like fill out this timeline and add information and research, so I'm not like doing a whole bunch of this on stream again. I tried using Encyclopedia Britannica a little bit, just on the Israel stuff. I feel like I heavily prefer Wikipedia over at least the online edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Oof. I don't know if maybe for Middle Eastern stuff it's just not as good, or maybe it's just maybe I was looking at the wrong articles, but yeah, I don't know. Another person accused Kevin Bass of paying him off to avoid debate. Destiny, did you beg for mercy too? No, I don't think so. I do need to respond to him though. What specifically was the problem? I don't know. I feel like I couldn't find good articles or anything. I looked up, I think, 6-Day War, Encyclopedia Britannica. Maybe I was just clicking questions. Like, I feel like these articles have way less information. And then I don't like this organization of, like, these questions that you can click into. I don't know. I'm not... Like, how did the 6-Day War start? And then you would think like, oh, maybe that goes to a section like in here, but not, I don't know. I didn't like the organization. I feel like there wasn't much information, and I'm not even sure if I fully agree with the summaries, although maybe I feel more pedantic about it. The 6-Day War occurred at a time of heightened tension between Israel and its neighboring Arab countries. After a series of back-and-forth military strikes, it was spurred on further by Soviet intelligence reports that indicated Israel was planning a military campaign against Syria. It's like kind of true, but not really. The Egyptian president Gamal Abdel Nasser ramped up rhetoric against Israel. That's true. And mobilized Egyptian forces in preparation for war. That's not really true. The war began on June 5th, 1967, when Israel launched a preemptive assault against the Egyptian and Syrian air forces. That's true. I don't know. I guess maybe I was expecting that like coming into this, it would be like the golden zone of like great, because Encyclopedia Britannica, but I don't know. I just wasn't impressed. Britannica is always written and designed solely as a jumping off point, mostly for children. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It's not like horrible. It's just, I wonder if you can write things like succinctly and still be entirely accurate. Okay, hold on. Yemen, the worst flag. Jordan. This is just like the Palestinian flag, right? Palestinian flag. What does it not have a star on it? Oh, it doesn't have a star on it. The UAE, do they get the cool thing? Nope, that's Iraq. Okay. Whatever happened to more community events? I thought you said you would try to do stuff to unify your communities more from Discord. Yeah, I don't know. I pay a Discord guy. Apparently they have like big debates and everything there. Yeah. But I haven't unified them at all. I don't know what that looks like. The Destiny Discord unironically thinks that they are cool for pretending that they don't even know who Destiny is. It's like, all right, so you just spend your time here. Yeah, there's a weird phenomenon where when you're like part of a group, eventually, I don't know what it is about humans, but there's like culture, counterculture, and it's like an inevitable cycle that develops. So I guess like moderation tries to prevent that from developing. Or in a perfect ideal world, you develop it, but you control it. So like the ideal world is like somebody like a stream like Gistigal is nice because people might say things there that I would ban if it was in my community because it would irritate the fuck out of me, but it's not my community. It's like a separate one, so they can like express stuff there. But like it's not like a full-on anti-fan community. It's just people might say things that they wouldn't ordinarily say here, which is fine. Like I feel like that's like a perfect case scenario. Yeah.